What is happening, guys? Happy Sunday on what's been an incredible sports weekend. It is the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast, and I'm not going to waste any time because I ain't got no time to waste. Let me start by introducing my co-host. You know him better as the man of the hour and the man with the power, Jerry Sinclair. Buddy, how are you?
I am good. Iowa was actually pretty nice this weekend. They lost in the national championship today, so I was at work. Everybody got the hell out of there as fast as they could, which was good for me. But I'm good, man. You're good?
I'm good, and that laughter, if you're watching on YouTube, we call him the man in the middle. He is our guest tonight. We moved his appearance up. It just made sense for the schedule for everybody involved, and I'm super excited. You know him as Matty Kiwoom, and you can find Matty everywhere you find Player Profiler, from the game plan to trade gods to the hurdle with Cody Carpentier, sometimes the future cast. Like I said, if you go to Player Profiler or you're a Player Profiler fan, you know our guest tonight, Mr. Matty Kiwoom. What's up, Matty?
What's going on, boys? I wanted to do like some sort of flamboyant kind of like pose. It's WrestleMania weekend. I'm in the mode. Watched it yesterday. I'm going to finish the rest of Sunday night after the show. So I wanted to kind of come in with like a, but I don't know.
Well, you need like some
fly.
I gotta be honest, we're doing this thing on a budget. We're doing this thing on a thin dime. And like the pyro guy was more than the budget could handle. We were gonna get some pyro. But it is, we will talk WrestleMania for a hot weekend. Jerry wearing his Michigan, State jacket. Purdue Boilermakers.
I was gonna wear a singlet, but Randy told me that I would embarrass myself if I did that, so I opted out.
I would pay.
He
I
said,
would pay
Jerry,
good money.
You don't fill it out enough, up top or down below. Don't do that to yourself.
Well, the problem is I told you to stuff a potato in there. The problem is you put it in the back.
You gotta have the headpiece.
I get that with Jerry. I need more direction, more specifics when it comes to Jerry. So we already have a bunch of questions. We want to talk about the Stefon Diggs trade that went down since we last recorded. A couple other small things. We have good people, bad tweets, and we're going to go with some rookie questions. But Matty, anything you want to promote before we jump into this?
I've been promoting the one thing and one thing only, and that's going to be the NFL draft coverage here at Player Profiler. We got a number of us going to Detroit to cover it, boots on the ground. We're going to have a number of different panels, and it's going to be next level draft coverage for a fantasy football platform.
So here's the move. You can watch live on ESPN or ABC or NFL Net or whatever, but like on your laptop off to the side, or if you have YouTube TV, you can watch the live stream of Player Profiler. It'll be me, Matty, the Podfather, Theo, Cody. I mean, the list goes on and on. We're going to have a bench press contest. So we have a lot going on. Let's get our ad out of the way, and we'll get into the shenanigans of this podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Player Profiler, the Dynasty Deluxe package. The rankings are the best in the industry. It includes strategy mode where you can say, hey, change the rankings to be win now. Oh, change the rankings to be productive struggle. There's also a draft planner to help strategize where you should take players because the draft planner also includes ADP. There's a trade finder where we look up on My Fantasy League and we see trades that are done, including a particular player. Then there's a trade analyzer where you can plug in draft picks, players, and we assign a lifetime value to draft picks out 5 years. The best thing about our trade analyzer, it can't be gamed with volume. And there's mock draft data to see right now what's the market for player X versus player Y, including in the fall when very few mock drafts are happening. And our Dynasty guide, the Dynasty Dominator, would cost you $10 on Amazon, but you get it for free with Dynasty Deluxe, and you get our rookie guide for free, a $25 value. So you get all of that for $45. I mean, it's a great deal.
Now, Jerry, you aspire to be an author. I saw a tweet from you that you aspire to be an author.
It's a book that nobody will read. So I actually just applied to get my master's at a few schools for history.
Nice.
So good luck to me there. So it would just be writing books that absolutely not a single human being that is listening to this podcast gives a rat's ass about. But I would like to do it at some point.
But you know what's funny is both Matty and I are published authors because we're both in the rookie guide that you get with Dynasty Deluxe. Because I wrote up Drake May. That's my man crush for 2024. Who did you write up, Matty?
Bowers. I wrote up. I got a Brandon Rice write up, and I've been helping out with some of the back end. The sleeper type guys, Burton, Cowing. Actually, I did Xavier Leggett too. I've done a few.
All right. Well, see,
Maddie's a tryhard. Don't let him fool you.
Yeah.
So for $45, you get a $25 rookie guide, and you get a $10 book, and then you get everything else for like essentially $10. Just parse it out. The math adds up. The math is mathing. Well, anyway, listen, we're gonna get into the main part of the show, but we mentioned a big sports weekend, the men's and women's NCAA Final Four. I'll start with Jerry. Are you this year? Are you a men's Final Four, or were you down with the women's?
Well, I mean,
being in Iowa,
once Michigan State is out, the men's tournament dies to me, and Zach Edey sets basketball back because I have to look at his giant ogre ass, and he has dominated the green and white his entire career. So I will be rooting for UConn. I know Purdue is in your backyard, and Babbage from Player Profiler went to Purdue, and he's been I've been hearing all about it, which is good for them. I like Matt Painter, but that pisses me off. But also I work in West Des Moines, Iowa, which is where Caitlin Clark went to high school, and it has been an absolute zoo, and it's been fun. I mean, today's game was awesome. South Carolina got a bunch of demons out there, so I've cared more about that, honestly.
What about you, Matty? You've been digging the women's Final Four, the men's. You've been watching it all.
I've been honestly digging the women's Final Four. They had a more compelling matchup: LSU, Purdue, UConn. Iowa, LSU. UConn, Iowa. Those have been some pretty fun games. Whereas on the guy side, I like the Arizona Wildcats. And year after year, they buy me in. They get me excited. I fill up my little bracket. I have them going deep, and they get chopped way too early, which screws me on two levels. First, my favorite team's out, and my bracket is busted. And I don't do a lot of brackets, so I don't have like a portfolio of picks. So that goes to the shitter, and it's done. And then I'm just waiting for the more fun basketball games. And like Jerry said, Zach Edey is it is. I never would have thought that like a 7'4" type of player would just be so boring. And he's in the finals, and then the other team has just been beating the crap out of everybody and could easily do so on Monday night. So the women's side's been a lot more compelling. And dude, South Carolina, that is a good bet. They are undefeated for a dang reason. They got
you love an undefeated champion. You love it.
You got to root for it a little bit at least.
I live in Indiana. It's a basketball state. A lot of my friends and family are Purdue people. I could really care less. I mean, I agree with Jerry that Edey's game sets the game backwards. But I mean, it's fine. One thing I like the upsets, and I like the bracket busting. I think that's fun. But I also like when you get down to the Final Four and you get to the final game, it's like one of the five, two of the five best teams that have been the best teams all season long are actually playing for a championship.
Yeah. So I mean, I think in both tournaments, the two best teams are the ones that are at the end, which is cool. I'm just happy that I won't have to watch Zach Edey anymore after this game.
All right.
I wish him the best of luck, but
you guys can be friends. Maybe he'll play for like an Iowa school someday, or like maybe I don't know. I've not heard good things about his draft capital. And guys, we are going to get to the rookie questions. I promise. We've got several. But Matty, I kind of already know the answer from you. But Wrestlemania weekend, you partaking? Yes or no?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
It's a fun weekend. Like, I've been a fan like when I was a little kid. I don't pay much attention throughout the course of the other 51 weeks of the year, but it's so much on Twitter. I'm a big Twitter guy, obviously. It's fun seeing all the stuff. It's weird seeing the phrase bisexual Undertaker trending on Twitter. That's the thing that's happening right now. But so I know Matty's in. What about you, Jerry? Could you care less, or are you?
I don't care tons, but I have found myself looking into seeing what's going on. Like I mean, Attitude Era Jerry
On the periphery.
I'm a t-shirt guy. Like I have a shitload of t-shirts. Got The Rock, got Triple H, got Stone Cold.
Yes.
Like everybody, I got a Cactus Jack one. Like if that era of my childhood, I still collect them. I still wear them. So, I mean, I've had good memories with it. I understand why people love it, which is why I have sort of checked in. Like I got to see a little People's Elbow yesterday, and that, I mean, that just warms your heart.
It's back. Wrestling, WWE is full back.
I mean, when you trend on Twitter, I mean, it's not that I would need to see like the data analytics of like from Twitter, but I would bet you a sizable amount of money that it has driven more social media imprints than the men's and women's NCAA has combined in the last week. And that's saying something, because, the NCAA, the Final Four is a big deal. So I don't know. It's a lot of fun. I just thought we'd bring it up because it's topical. I said before we hit the record button, I fumbled the bag. So Jerry and I and Matty helped us tonight, as our guest usually does. We do a pre-segment called Before I Hit the Record Button, and it's exclusive for our patrons. The patrons get that 10 to 15, 20 minutes, as well as the show. They get it early and ad-free. But I told Jerry, I said, we fumbled the bag. What we should have done was do a live watch-along of Wrestlemania with the patrons here on StreamYard. Fumble. Just a total. Matty, would that be a fun thing as a patron if we were to do like some sort of a watch-along?
This is what I think we should do. Now that we're 365 away, let's just lock it in. A Dynasty WarZone Wrestlemania watch-along, and I will be there with you if you want a third chair.
You're already booked.
We can partay.
You are booked.
No
for
vetoing
April.
my singlet this time.
I want potato in the front.
Pyrotechnics and all, baby. Look at that.
I'll get some sparklers. All right, we better get to the Dynasty before these people kill us.
We're getting at least three one-star reviews for this one.
We usually do the shenanigans at the end, but speaking of shenanigans, we got a good people bad tweet here, and this one was brought to me by my co-host. And this gentleman's actually a really great guy. This can actually make it great people bad tweets, because it's Eric Moody, at Eric N. Moody from ESPN. I don't want to say anyone replaced Matthew Berry, but like on the ESPN TV and podcast, he's done a tremendous job. But he sent a tweet that triggered my co-host. And it says, nobody wants to admit it, but keeper fantasy football leagues are better in all caps, better than dynasty leagues. Now, Jerry, you saw that and you instantly in the comments gave the hand emoji writing, which means write her down. This one we're going to talk about. Give us your thoughts, Jerry, right off the rip.
You know what I love? I love hamburgers, but you know what is better than a hamburger? A goddamn cheeseburger, Randy. And that's what a keeper league is to dynasty. Like vanilla ice cream is pretty good. Like you're like, I have ice cream, and that's good. You know what makes it better? Literally everything else you put in it, except for gummy bears. I'm not a gummy person.
Me either. They get too hard. They get rock hard.
Yeah, it's just weird. But I mean, come on. What do we? It's training wheels. It's dynasty training wheels is what it is. There's in no way, shape, or form is it any better. The part that makes it exciting is the part that dynasty has everywhere. Oh, I get to keep 3 people. I could keep everybody, and I can have my rookie draft, and I can build that way. And here's the thing about a keeper league. If your team falls apart, okay, you're only keeping 3 teams. There's no fun in it. I can't send off my old guys and try and get a bunch of rookie picks, and I can't do it. Like it's handcuffed. It's handcuffed dynasty. It's training wheels dynasty. No, in no way. Unfathomable for my brain to possibly function that. And maybe I just don't have a fully functioned brain, but good God. I hated it, and I do love Eric Moody too. Just you already tooted his horn. He is a good guy, but holy shit, hated it.
Matty, because you do both. I asked you before
Yeah.
the show started. You mentioned you like both styles.
So I agree 1,000,000% with everything Jerry said. It is the training wheels version. It is why, in my long-standing home league, we do 10 player keepers. It's because there's people who need training wheels. If we took those training wheels off, 3 bikes would keep riding downhill. The rest would be crashed along the side of the road. And there'd be 3 people dominating the league. So it is training wheels. It does benefit it. But what brings the question that brings to my mind is Eric Mooney then a casual player? Is he not a dynasty sicko like I would have assumed? Because I would agree. Like I said, my homeland league is 14 teams. 11 of those teams would say keepers are the best format. But those 11 guys would probably rather play redraft if you pick up what I'm putting down. So I'm wondering, is Eric Mooney a cash? Is he a cash or is he a dynasty sicko?
He's definitely not a dynasty sicko, because here's my problem with the comparing dynasty to keeper, is that keeper does not reward the work that you put in. Because if you can only keep 3, if you can only keep 5, and you listen to Dynasty Podcast, or you follow Player Profiler, or you follow Matty Kiwoom, by the way, at Matty Kiwoom, follow this man. He's a good man. You would know about all the rookies. And then when you smash a guy like Kyron Williams, and I know it took him a year to break out, when you smash a guy like Rashad White, well, what if you drafted or had like Breece Hall? And now and obviously you should have a good wide receiver or two. And it's like, you've got to throw someone back. You listened to the Podfather last year, and I forget his guest that made the bold prediction that Rashad White would have more fantasy points than Bijan, but he was right. And if you listen to that advice and you have Rashad White, you've got tough decisions. It does not fully reward the hard work you put into that. Is that a fair take?
For sure.
Jerry?
Because if you assemble the good team, then why do I got to get rid of them?
I'm
like
with
in
you.
Dynasty, I don't have to.
That's right.
That's my team. I get to spit in the face of every one of my teammates for the next several years if I assemble a good team. You're damn right that's better. And that's what my friends deserve. And that's what the Patreons deserve that are in my leagues too. Listen, love them. Love you guys. But if you think I'm not trying to get you to cry, you are mistaken.
Well, let's end this with our man Dana White, and then we'll talk about the Stefon Diggs trade real quick.
Why are people bitching about that?
Some people.
Of course they are. Oh, okay. All right, got it. Yeah, too far bad.
All right, little Dana White, little different Dana White for you. Stefon Diggs trade. So I think it was Thursday. And normally I get my breaking news from Twitter, but I got this one from Vinny. Vinny being my 16-year-old son. I get a text message from my kid going Diggs to Houston. And I thought he was full of shit. So I instantly go to Adam Schefter, validate it, go right to Ian Rappaport, validate it. Sure shit. There he goes. He's a Houston Texan. Matty, what was the first thing that went through your mind from a dynasty perspective when you saw Stefon Diggs, a Houston Texan?
CJ Stroud to the moon, baby. Because guess what we don't have to do when we roster CJ Stroud? Worry about target shares. He's going to be dishing them out to everybody. I was high on Stroud in terms of my dynasty rankings, but after that trade, I had to move him above Lamar. So now I have CJ Stroud as my quarterback 4 in dynasty.
What about your thoughts, Gerald?
I mean, CJ Stroud was the only person I thought of too. Even if you were worried that he was going to have a sophomore slump, when you have someone like Stefon Diggs who propped up Kirk Cousins and then he really took Josh Allen to the moon, you've at least got that floor that it really should prevent a sophomore slump, which no one is going to predict, especially when we saw a rookie season like him. But now it almost secures that because Stefon Diggs is good. I mean, I don't think it's probably going to help him a ton because Nico's pretty good. I mean, he showed out like an animal. Took him a couple years to do it. I don't like to say that I like Michigan players doing good things, but he's good. Tank Dell, I mean, I know he missed some games. Bro was a demon. And so I'm excited for that whole offense. I think it's good for Joe Mixon too, because they're going to be in the red zone more often, and he can pound it in and deal. Cut that.
Clip it.
I clip it. I like it because he does already put the ball in play via the air a lot. You know, he averaged 33 pass attempts a game last year. So you start, dividing that up and figuring where that goes. I think it kills Nico Collins. And if Nico Collins had the first 3 years that Justin, Jefferson had, or AJ Brown had, or anyone like that, that's fine. But I could argue that 2023 was an outlier season. And if they were super impressed with Nico Collins, they were also allegedly in the mix on Keenan Allen as well. So they clearly wanted to add to this wide receiver group. And then whether you like Dalton Schultz or not, he's a very capable tight end. So I don't want to use the cliche. I don't have the cliche alert like the Podfather, but there are a lot of guys to take care of in that offense. So Jerry, you're a bit of a Nico Collins guy. Does this bother you?
Yeah, I mean, of course, but I don't know what's going to happen with any of them. I think they're all pretty good. I think they're all capable of getting you points. I think it's going to be a headache. I really do. I think one of them is going to plummet in value by the end of the year. I couldn't tell you who it is. I think for my sanity, I would like it to be Stefon Diggs, just because he's old and he's aging, and it would make this game nice. Because what we don't need is young, talented wide receivers making our game harder. And is it because I'm selfish? Is it because I'm terrible at this game and I want it to be easier? Maybe it is. But
what about you, Matty? Anything on Nico Collins? And then we'll jump into our first rookie question.
I think his days of a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty are dead. I have him at wide receiver 30 now in the ranks, because Stefon Diggs, he'll probably start taking a little step back. I mean, we've seen him fade. We've seen him fade now at the end of each season the past 2 years. And I wonder if that's a little to do with the age, probably where he's playing. Now he gets to be indoors, so we'll see if that clears up at all. But I think Diggs is still the best football player catching the football for the Texans, which can't be good for Nico Collins. But if you could still buy, if someone's going to sell at a 40th, a wide receiver 40th price, I'll still buy, because I think the T. Higgins 2022 season's absolutely in his range of outcomes, which is about 75 catches, 1,000 yards, and 6 or 7 or so touchdowns. He was a top 30 wide receiver on a points per game basis. So that's what I still think Nico Collins can be.
Well, it was one of those big moves, and I will tell you, be prepared. This is why in Dynasty you invest in blue chip assets. You invest in Justin Jeffersons. You invest in Jamar Chases, Breece Halls, because there's going to continue to be shakeups. If you think the NFL is done with the trade button, we've not even seen it. We're still 2.5 weeks away from the draft. So a lot going on, but let's get into a rookie question. Now, these first 3 come from our patron, but they are rookie questions, so I'm going to throw this first one to Jerry. This is from the Big PP. His name's Paul. Last name starts with a P. The Big PP. You get it? Anyway, how many rookies are you willing to take in the first 2 rounds of a startup? So you're doing a startup. He didn't specify Superflex tight end premium. That's our preferred method. What do you got?
3.
And
Caleb Williams, Malik Nabers, Marvin Harrison Jr.
I think I agree. What about you, Matty? What do you think about how many rookies are you willing to take in the first 24 picks, Superflex tight end premium?
I need to kind of see how this plays out, because in my head, definitely Caleb in Superflex, no doubt. He's a first rounder now. I've seen him go at the end of round 1, and I think that's totally okay. But then the way I have it in my wide receiver ranks is basically a 3-way tie between Dunzy, Nabers, and Marvin Harrison. So I'm going to say 4. I'm going to say 4 because I believe in the quarterback and the 3 receivers. So I'm going to say 4, but mathematically that may not check out. I'd have to see. That's what I was looking for. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think with 12, I
didn't go to Purdue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no engineering degree for Matty. I think Nabers is pushing it. I think 2 are a lot.
I agree. I think, yeah.
But I will say this, because of the way that I build my dynasty rosters, I could see me pushing, depending on where he lands in the NFL draft, I could see myself pushing the button on Malik Nabers over like a Jonathan Taylor. I don't know that I could do it over a Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'm pretty sure I couldn't do it over Breece Hall, but those would be the only two.
I see.
So-
I have tiny little marble testicles. So I think the only person that I personally would take is Caleb Williams in those first 2 rounds. Not that I don't trust that Marvin Harrison Jr. is an absolute animal and da 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 da.
You're kind of in a spot.
I think in the first 2 rounds, I'm getting a proven asset that I already know exists, and I'm probably just not going to gamble in that situation. But that's me. I got the tiny little peanuts.
Little bitty BB balls.
Yeah.
Very small.
Not the big PP, if you know.
Not the big PP. No, not like the Asker. But no, I could see Nabers going. It would have to be like I'm drafting at like the 101 overall. I got a QB. I come back around. I could get Nabers at 212 and then see where the draft takes me at 301. But I think that's the most I could see possibly going. So real quick, what about in a standard? Because that changes it quite a bit. You're going to kick out a lot of quarterbacks. How high do you take a Rome Odunze in that particular situation? Or I mean, Matty's not Theo. So Matty, how high would you take Brock Bowers in a non-tight end premium?
I'm not taking Brock Bowers. He's probably gonna be more towards. He's gonna have to fall to the 4th round, which is probably a little unrealistic for me. For most things that I'm seeing, he's right now going around the 4.7 in Superflex. So if we take out those 15 or so QBs, that's gonna shoot him into the round 2. I'm not taking him there. I'm not paying that price. So I'm not gonna be taking him in the first 2 rounds. He's gonna have to fall a little bit. I'm gonna have to see some value.
Jerry, anything to add before we move on?
Agree. The only hypothetical that I would give is if a running back gets 2nd round draft capital and they end up in a conducive situation, I think there's a possibility that everybody gets way too tight in their britches and a running back could potentially go. Now, it would have to be somebody that we also like. It has to be one of those names that's near the top. I feel like everybody's got a different RB1 in this class, which probably says everything we need to know about the damn running backs that are in this class. But one of them will get drafted to a good spot, probably with decent draft capital. And then that price is going to keep going up. It happens every single year with every single mediocre guy we've ever dealt with. It'll happen again this offseason. So we're doing mock drafts, and we did one last week, and they're everywhere, and I've been watching the hell out of them. They're going to be different come draft time because running backs will be in the 108, 109 range pretty often.
Well, if you want to see a good mock draft where the rookies go, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, and it came out this weekend. Matty and I, along with John Laub and Theo Grimminger from Player Profiler, we did a 3-round mock draft on the Futurecast, and that's already up on YouTube and on podcast. Is that correct, Matty?
That's right. It's out everywhere. YouTube came on Friday, and now the pod's out, so you can get that on Spotify, wherever.
Yeah, it's a good addition to this thing. I will end this question with this little nugget. If Rome Odunze lands in a good spot, I could easily see him going in the top 24. What's a good spot? The Chargers, the Giants. What are spots that would deter me? I think the New York Jets, because they've already got Garrett Wilson. The Bears, I've seen him mocked to the Bears a lot. That would deter me quite a bit. But if he gets into like what I consider, like obviously the Chargers is like they trade back from 5 because someone wants to come up and get a quarterback, and they land an Odunze later in the draft, that would obviously make things go crazy as well. So we're gonna stay on wide receivers for a second, but this one come from Diddy, and everybody loves Diddy. He is a Michigan man. He wants to know, Matty, what happened to Roman Wilson? What happened to all the Roman Wilson hype that we had from the Senior Bowl, the end of the NCAA season? What has happened to this man?
I don't think there's anything that's happened to Roman Wilson per se. Hype is finite, right? It's like a piece of the pie. If this guy has it, usually means he's taking some from somebody else. And he just ran a good 40, didn't blaze the 40, while others were considered to have ripped the 40 to shreds. Adonai Mitchell going 4.35 blew everyone's mind. Brian Thomas being sub 4.4 got everybody going. So there were enough people that passed him on the hype train, and he's just kind of lost it. And unfortunately for him, he's in probably the best wide receiver class that may ever happen in football. So that's just kind of what's happening. It's not in my opinion, when I look at him, I still love the player, love the prospect, but hype wise, he just let others in the class take a bunch of it.
What about you, Jer? Anything to add on Roman Wilson?
No, I think everything Matty said is pretty spot on. The problem is at one point, him and Rome Odunze were the last wide receivers that were out there. So every eyeball was on him, and it gave him the opportunity to sort of get that hype. And then he had a good combine. He's a good player. I mean, he's a smart player. He's going to be productive. Enjoy it. Especially Matt or Diddy. You're a Michigan guy. I'm not going to take him. I'm not going to let that Wolverine scumbag touch my roster. So and me and him are in a bunch of leagues together. So he'll be able to snag him.
Yeah.
It's a good thing for you. I think he's good. I think he's going to be productive. I think he's going to have a good role, and he's going to be cheaper because he's all steak and not sizzle. And that's sort of what we want to have happen. We want to zig when the narrative is zagging.
Mm-hmm.
I like Roman Wilson because he falls into that category of, and I bring this up a lot, but that wide receiver that goes to the Senior Bowl, does real well in the vein of a Cooper Kupp or a Terry McLaurin, that may go in the third round of the NFL draft, and then we'll go in the third round of our Dynasty rookie drafts, and ends up being an absolute steal. Like, this is the kind of guy, and I was joking with our buddy Anand Nanduri from the Decision Point on Twitter. Like, he was like, wait until Malik Nabers is a Charger. I'm like, did you see the interview with Jim Harbaugh? Joe Alt, you're a Charger if they don't trade back. But Roman Wilson is the kind of guy that I could see them drafting, like, in, again, the second round. I think it's a little high, but like the third round. Just don't be shocked if Jim Harbaugh, because Matty, have you ever left a job and then when you got there, like, you reach back out to previous coworkers thinking, hey, they'd be a great fit for this team?
Oh yeah.
And
yeah,
why would Jim Harbaugh be any different than us?
Yeah, he's trying to get the guys that you're familiar with, get the people that you've worked with, that they could buy in, they could, their puzzle piece fits the overall picture.
It's not too easy. So nothing happened to Roman Wilson except he's becoming a bigger value by the day. He will be an absolute steal if he lands day 2 NFL draft capital. I don't care if he's the last pick of the third round. That's what you want. You don't want Hakeem Bustler draft capital. He was the first pick of the fourth round.
PTSD.
That's a Jerry one. So I think this one was from Jesse. I'm not sure, but I'm going to start with Jerry. Do you have any concerns on Malik Nabers? Because it came out over the weekend that he is a quote unquote high maintenance prospect who would struggle in a big city. When you hear that, what do you think?
That's what I think. Listen, Michael in the chat earlier told me I was being a little too aggressive, so I'm not going to get straight in front of the camera, and I'm not going to put the microphone straight up to my mouth and yell into it and blow their eardrums out. The dude played football in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I mean, if you want to talk about living under a microscope, yes, it's not New York City, and you don't have New York City media. You think the people down there in Nolens and down there are not absolutely consumed with LSU football and judge everything that happens? No, I don't care. It's a talking point because we have nothing else to talk about. We got no more combine. We got no more Senior Bowl. Now we're just yapping. And so people are coming up with whatever they can to get the talk still going. Dude's a dog. If he ends up in a good situation, he can be great.
Matty?
So no, I don't care.
I second the fart noises wholeheartedly. Because
Randy never does the fart noises with me. He's I'm grown. I'm an adult.
Fart noises. First of all, farts are always funny.
They're always hilarious.
I mean, from like the minute that you realize you're not supposed to, for the rest of your life, farts are funny.
They're so funny forever. And I'm 36 years old. I still find them hilarious today. I had to hold back laughing out loud when you made your front rows, Jerry, for sure. But remember, what was it last year or 2 years ago? Remember the Keyshawn Booty wildness?
That's what I was thinking too.
Well, he wasn't a part of that. So that means at least you know that he's not an out and out crazy person doing wild things on your team, because it was right there and he wasn't anywhere near it. He wasn't indicted in it. No one wrapped him up in it. And he was in that wide receiver room. So he was hanging out with Keyshawn Booty, but yet he didn't get none of that freak on him. So I think that's a good sign. I also want to say this. This is the time of the year where nukes are dropped off, little nuggets are dropped off to these agents to try to get the draft board to shake the way you want. Look at the top of the draft board. You see New York City twice and Chicago. So if I'm sitting there and I'm from wherever going, you know what? We have a shot if Malik can fall to, I don't know, wherever. Let's call it, what's 11? Minnesota? Is that small enough? I don't know. 12? Denver? Is that small enough? I mean, the NFL teams are usually in pretty big cities anyway, but if I was an agent, I'm trying to get a little maniacal, to use my man Cody's term. I'm saying that he's bad for big cities, because I look ahead of me and I see a number of very big cities.
Well, I'll tell you the three things. First of all, don't trust that the NFL is going to do the right thing and draft Malik Nabers high. Just look at CeeDee Lamb, where he went in the NFL draft, and look at some of the jokers and smokers that went in front of him. So that's first and foremost. He was a bit of a diva too, by the way. And then I think a lot of this becomes camouflage. Like if you are Sean Payton and George Patton in Denver, and you want Malik Nabers, doesn't it benefit you to leak this to the media so that maybe if you can get him to fall that one additional spot? I'll tell you where I want him to go, because if you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know this about me. I love chaos. And I want Malik Nabers to go to the Atlanta Falcons. I want to see the long suffering of the Kyle Pitts stands and the Drake London stands to only continue. Now, that's just how I am, Jerry. You said rude?
That's rude.
That's how I roll. All right. Well, listen. Let's get to some questions from the YouTube live chat. We've talked all kinds of stuff. This one's from Corey. I'm gonna put Corey's question up on the YouTube. Corey, by the way, thank you for being a regular watcher of the show. You're good people. If the Bills draft a wide receiver in the first round, where do you think they get drafted in rookie drafts, Matty?
I think in one QB, I still think he falls no earlier than, let's call it 105. I would think I would still have the big three wide receivers ahead and probably Brock Bowers, but then he is the number 5 pick, that wide receiver, whether it be Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, who I'm not a particular fan of, but either way, the market will skyrocket for whoever lands at the Bills at 28. What I'm starting to believe, and what I've heard this very minutely, just a few kind of tidbits out there, that the Bills are not particularly scared to throw out a Julio Jones type trade and move way up the draft board to try to get one of these big three. Now, if they get one of these big three, they get a Dunzy, they get Nabers, they get Marv. Now we're talking about the solidified 101 in 1 QB leagues.
I'm going to Jerry.
So if we're going to talk Superflex, I think it's 109. I think the first 8 picks, barring the NFL draft doing some crazy stuff that we're just not expecting, those 8 guys are in there. The 4 quarterbacks, the 3 wide receivers, and Brock Bowers. And if the Bills go with a wide receiver in the late 20s, I think it's just going to staple that person right there, because they'll have an easy path to be a wide receiver 1 with Josh Allen. And there will be lots of people in the community that'll talk about getting them even sooner and even quicker up rookie draft boards. But I think it baseline, latest 109, right after that, just core 8 that we have sort of assembled as the people that we're really comfortable with in this class.
All right. Well, I'm going to put my hosting skills to the test, because I'm going to add in Anthony Boyd's question. And Anthony said, you are on the clock at the 108. Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Nabers, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Roma Dunze, Brock Bowers are all off the board. And we'll tie this back into Corey's question. It very well could be this person. I think 108 is going to, and it could be JJ McCarthy too in Superflex. So I think in Superflex at 108, you're adding in those three guys. I do believe, and Jerry, this was your point last week, that if the Cowboys go with a running back in day 2, and I know a lot of people would like to see, like that second round draft capital, but if they go running back in the 3rd round, I think that running back, whether it be Jonathan Brooks or Trey Benson, I think they're in that mix. So at the 108, it's actually for the longest time in tight end premium and Superflex, it was kind of a weird spot to be. But now it's actually going to be a really, really good spot because of Corey's question, because Buffalo pretty much has to get a cheap rookie wide receiver because they're paying $31 million in a cap hit. They can't afford to trade for somebody. They can't afford to sign somebody. They need cheap talent. So because of that, a rookie's going to go there. And then at 108, Anthony, you can look at your roster and say, do I want a quarterback? I'm going to take JJ McCarthy. Do I need a running back? I'm taking the guy Dallas drafted as my running back. Do you need a wide receiver? I'm taking the wide receiver that the Bills drafted. I think it could really be that simple, Matty.
I agree. I think right now, if you have to make the pick right now, I'm going McCarthy. I think I'm going to take the quarterback because if he gets that top, let's call it top 10 draft capital in the NFL draft, that value will spike and he'll probably no longer be an option in most people's 108 rookie draft. So if you have to select it right now, you got to hit that button, go JJ. But if you can wait on it, I'd be looking to see what happens because Buffalo's going to be looking for a receiver, and there are some good ones that'll be available, even if they stay pat at 28.
There is nothing I could say to add to that. That is almost verbatim what I would have told you.
All right, well let's stick with the questions from the chat, and then we'll take a quick word from the folks at the FFPC. Franz, love putting these up on the YouTube. One Franz with an S, one Franz with a Z. In a 12-team single QB half-point PPR start 8, would you sell the 102 for Michael Pittman, the 112, and probably a later 25 first Jerry?
Fun fact, I answered this in the chat. Yes, I would, because that's 3 firsts in value for a rookie. And while I do believe in Malik Nabers, and I do think that he can be good, there is a non-zero possibility that does not come to fruition. I have played this game long enough to know that this game is so evil. And every time we know something's going to happen, friends, it does not happen. So I will take the known commodity in Pittman, and I will be able to maneuver the 112 however I see fit, and then I'll have a later 2025 in my pocket that I can use to maneuver either in season or in rookie season next off season. That's just a ton of value for a guy that hasn't shown that he deserves to be the 102. Like, yes, in a single QB, Malik Nabers is going to be the 102. But we don't know if that production is going to match. Like, we've seen a lot of 102s, and they weren't 102s. Corey Coleman, we're looking at you. Corey Davis, we're looking at you.
Corey Davis, oh, that's the
I mean, I'm pretty much
Jerry has
hitting,
PTSD.
these are all my greatest hits. That's why Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we're looking at you. I mean, there's been a lot of these guys that have been in conducive situations, and they've been talented enough to succeed. DeAndre Swift, I mean, he's been okay, but I mean, love Nabers, rooting for the best. I think he's going to be good, but not 100%.
I like all the names, but some point these guys become data on a spreadsheet. God, the analytics nerds are winning. But they become data points. And what do you need to win fantasy football games? You need fantasy points, guys. It's really that simple. And Michael Pittman scores a lot of them. What are you hoping for when you draft Malik Nabers? You're hoping for Michael Pittman plus. Now, obviously, you're hoping for CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. That's where you want to get. But if you got Michael Pittman, type production out of Malik Nabers for the first 3 years of his career. Michael Pittman had like 158 targets last year.
You'd be happy.
That's where you want to be. So I'm getting those points, as well as another piece, which is probably going to be a running back. Matty, correct me if I'm wrong. Based off the mock draft you, John, and Theo and I did the other night, that would probably be a running back when you pull out the QBs. And then a 25 first in your pocket, man. If you're contending in season, you can spend that on, a piece to go up and win a championship. I don't know. You could always, I guess, depends on your roster, but I think, Matty, that's how I handle it.
I love Nabers. I love Nabers. I've been watching a ton of LSU tape, and the more and more I watch Malik Nabers, the more I think he's just kind of a bigger version of Antonio Brown. His release off the line is sick, nasty. No one can stop him. And in a Star 8 league, you want the superstar. But in this trade, I think you got a good enough player in Michael Pittman now. I've seen enough of these trades get too cute, right? And they're getting a maybe wide receiver 25 and then a first and a future first. No, Michael Pittman to me is a stone cold top 15 receiver. This is a guy who was 14 in points per game last year and only had 4 touchdowns. If we believe in Anthony Richardson like we do, then we got to continue to believe in Michael Pittman. Chris Ballard believes in Michael Pittman. He gave him a ton of money. I love Michael Pittman. So these are, as much as I love Nabers, this trade works with a handful of names. Pittman happens to be one of them. Then you take the 112. You're looking at probably the running back 3 in the class potentially. A quarterback might be best available for you here. You're probably not going to want to go there, but 112, Ricky Pearsall, Keon Coleman. There are a situation where these second and third round rookie picks that we've just come so familiar with looking as we do these mocks kind of all land in perfect spots. That is a possibility. So in that million ranges or 1,000,001 outcomes in terms of now to the rookie draft, that 112 may not look as sexy now as it could in a few weeks. And then, like Jerry said, having that extra 25 first in the pocket, that's how you win championships, is having that extra draft capital to go, you know what, let's YOLO this thing. Let's get the high-performing running back. Let's get, the Devin Singletary plus that helps me win a championship. So I think that Franz take the package over Nabers.
I don't think it's egregious either.
It's not egregious.
If you think Nabers is going to be one of the alpha dogs, then it's good. The package just gives you so much versatility.
Yeah.
And when you take Nabers at 102, he either succeeds or he doesn't. And that's your outcome. You're 50-50. You got the 112, which is another person that's 50-50, and then you got the 25 first that you can use to maneuver however you want. It gives you a lot more flexibility, which is why I would take it. Plus you get Pittman, so you're going to get 11 or 1,200 yards. You're going to get some touchdowns, hopefully more than we've been seeing, but it's just, that's a hell of a package.
Well, I've heard that my entire life. Nope. so let's hear about the FFPC.
Hey, people always ask me, what's the World Series of Fantasy? What's the Super Bowl of Fantasy? And it's easy. It's the FFPC. Their signature Players Championship has a $6 million prize pool, and their best ball leagues start in February. And they're the answer to so many questions. Hey, what's the best place to get a Dynasty Orphan? Well, you can adopt a Dynasty Orphan at the FFPC right now. There's more orphans at the FFPC than anywhere else on the internet. That's why we partner with them. So if you want to play fantasy football for low, medium, high stakes, you love Dynasty, you love best ball, you love seasonal leagues, all types of fantasy footballers need to go to the FFPC. And remember, use promo code Underworld. Promo code Underworld gets you $25 off your first team. Promo code Underworld, $25 off your first team, no matter what the format is, at the FFPC. Go get it.
And allow me to remind you about the FFPC. First of all, it's a great place to play because when you invest your time and money into a roster, it's going to be there. If someone falls out of your league, they're going to replace him. And the last thing I want to do is spend 2 years building up a dynasty roster to then have the league collapse and never get my money back out of there. You don't ever hear too many stories, as in 0 stories of anyone ever not getting paid from the FFPC. It's a great place to play dynasty. Highly recommend it. Let's jump into our next question. We got time for a couple of more. This is Flowosaurus. I like
That's
that name.
actually Randy's rap name also.
That was my street name back in the day. I was offered Bijan and the 110 for my Amon-Ra St. Brown. I declined, but it feels wrong to do so. I have Gibbs, A-Chain, AJB, which is AJ Brown, Puka Nacua, Chase, Lockett, Stroud, and Cousins. It's a 12-team Superflex, 1 PPR. Would you do it? Jerry, would you do that trade?
I mean, I would probably stick with Bijan and the 110. I would take that, but I mean, I get where he's coming from. I think this was mostly just a humble brag because that's a fucking demon squad. I mean, you've got young talent everywhere, dude. Like you're in good shape no matter what you do. If you want me to be honest with you, I would take Bijan just because he's the 101 running back, and then I get that extra first. As a Detroit Lions fan, I would love for every player to build a statue of Amon-Ra St. Brown right outside their home when they draft every time. But I mean, that's a good offer. I would have taken it, but by all means, I mean, you got Gibbs, you got A-Chain. I mean, AJ Brown, Puka Chase, like Puka Chase. You got AJ Brown as your wide receiver 3, your Puka. Like, good God.
I'm going to throw in some context from Flowosaurus. He also, or she, I don't know, it's Flowosaurus. I mean, it's whatever. The owner of also has the 103 and the 106. Was thinking of asking for the 106. Here's the thing. I would counter with the 106 and Gibbs, but if they say no, I would go back to taking Bijan and the 110. Because as much as I don't want to lose Amon-Ra St. Brown, like if you told me in Dynasty you have him as your wide receiver 4 and you valued him more than Jamar Chase, I'm not really arguing with you. Do I think Jamar Chase has a higher ceiling? I do. But to be the man, you got to beat the man. It's WrestleMania weekend. It's cool to quote Ric Flair. So I would ask for the 106. The 106 would be a great get because then you could replace that wide receiver production with a young guy like Rome Odunze. But at the end of the day, like that 110, we were just talking about the 108, 109. That's going to be one of 3 guys. It's going to be potentially a quarterback. You could trade out if someone needs a quarterback. It could be a running back. It could be a wide receiver. Just so many options. And because you have Puka and AJ Brown and Chase already, you can never afford to lose an Amon-Ra St. Brown. But if there was ever a roster that could afford to lose Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's your roster. Matty, I throw it to you.
Hold on. Let me just say something real quick. I think countering with the 106 is also a good idea because it's going to still keep the dialogue going. And if that person thinks that absolutely not, you go piss off Flowosaurus, you can be like, okay, I was just getting a little greedy. Maybe I'll take the 110 back. I think it's fine. But Matty, what do you got?
Yeah, I think that asking for the 106 is smart, and also he knows his league better than we do. So if he or she believes that they can get that 106 as opposed to the 10, definitely give it a shot because you're getting the conversation going. You could always settle at the 110, and that puts you just 2 spots away from that golden area that we were just talking about. That one, let's just call it the pick 8, and JJ McCarthy's a bit of the we'll see. Either way, that you're kind of in the range of being able to get a difference maker. And if you can get the 106 and you could tell me that you're trading away Amon-Ra St. Brown for Bijan and Rome Odunze, fire the cannons, baby. That is the type of things that dreams are made of. And I see the start 10, so it is a deep starting lineup. So you want those numbers. So to be able to add Bijan and a first round pick, I think is a definite hit the smash accept. I'm not huge. I don't know how you guys feel. I think it's a little crazy that there's so much confidence in Devon A-Chain already when the red flags.
I could kiss you on the mouth right this second.
I think we've become best friends this episode. I think that we're going to have to talk about Randy about this WrestleMania watch along for next year and how we can make this next level stuff. But anyway, so the fact that he has A-Chain, I think getting Bijan on that team makes his roster just even that much stronger.
Potentially 101 and 102 running backs. I mean,
yeah, right.
I mean,
right.
Gibbs is my one. I gotta, and I gotta say
over
at this
Bijan?
point, yes, sir. Look, I saw Gibbs do it, and I think Gibbs is only going to be more involved. I truly think Gibbs is going to be as close as we're going to get to Christian McCaffrey in the not too distant future. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more.
Honolulu blue heart is just shining right now.
My heart does not bleed Honolulu blue, but I do believe that guy is special. Now, that being said, Bijan now has Captain Kirk, but I think you guys nailed it. First of all, with the Devon Achane thing, it's like, to me, messaging always matters. Why did they rework Mostert's contract and give him a little bit more scratch to keep him around? If they truly thought Achane was ready to be the man to take over and get that 52% workload, and then like let the other guys get a little bit more, they wouldn't be extending Raheem Mostert at 31 years old. And to have a Bijan and Gibbs combo, because again, it's start 10. You want high end running backs because you've already got the high end receivers. Now, if you were drafting, it'd be different. But man, I don't know how I could pass on, given what you've got, how I could pass on making that move.
Yeah, hopefully he gets to 106 too. I mean, that would be
God. You would be such a demon.
Yeah, dude, the 106. Imagine turning. And we love Amon-Ra. We love him.
Yeah, we
Big
do.
fans here.
We do.
But imagine turning him into Bijan Robinson and Rome Odunze. Especially if Odunze lines up, it's like when you start taking the picks off, the numbers of the picks off and start putting names on, it changes the entire complex of the trade.
Here's the follow-up. Would that also would that be the origin story for this villain? Because that man may turn into the worst Batman villain of all time after they trade all of that. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to think of the butterfly effect here, Randy. I mean,
there's always a
talking
ripple
about the end of
effect in the league.
civilization here.
I really hope for Flowosaurus's standing this. I hope this is an FFPC league, because like you're locked in. You're locked in for like 3 to 5 years of just making it rain. You're just, because people always complain that the FFPC has a high rake. Only the winners pay the rate, guys. The losers don't pay shit. So with a roster like that, I'm happy to pay the rate because they're sending me a check. We're almost out of questions. I mean, I'm looking to make sure we don't have any. Matty, I want to get back to you before we talk about all the podcasts that you do. Who is your favorite rookie in this class? Like, who is the guy that Matty Kiwoom is not leaving rookie drafts without?
I'll give you one receiver. I'll give you one running back. My receiver is I hate to be lame. It's Malik Nabers. I'm big on Dunze guy. I believed in. He's that Larry Fitzgerald, a little bit of Odell Beckham type. So high, but like I said, the more and more I watch LSU football, the more and more I just cannot get enough of Malik Nabers. So I love Nabers. He's my wide receiver that I'm going to try my damnedest to come away with. And then for running backs, I love Jalen Wright. He's my running back one in the class, but a guy that I think I will come away with in most of my rookie drafts is Will Shipley. Will Shipley continues to climb up my rookie ranks, and the guy can catch the ball. He's a pretty good runner at Clemson. And I think that the NFL is going to look at his skill set a little bit higher than we have as a fantasy industry. So I think he gets good draft capital. So Will Shipley is someone I'm targeting right now in the third, but I think he's going to creep into the second.
And Jerry, who are your guys? Give me your wide receiver and running back that are your guys.
I don't know if I have any wide receivers that are my guys. If you want me to be like, I'm so happy getting like 6 guys. And the first 3 are obviously the first 3, and I'm cool with any one of them. And even that second tier, like it's not going to upset me at all. As far as running back, it's Jonathan Brooks. It's just the injury is going to push him down the board a little bit. It might even push him down the draft board, and I just like him the best. And this is a class that I don't love. I mean, Blake Corum's probably on that list too, but I have a lot of questions about Blake Corum. But also, I think those questions are going to push them down, and it'll create an opportunity for me to acquire lots of shares that were not expensive, and I'm fine lighting those picks on fire. Like if I'm talking about 206, I don't really expect it to change my roster a ton. So if I can swing for somebody like that there, okay. I mean, that 100 times out of 100. If there's a rookie that I will probably not have lots of, it's going to be Bowers. And it's not because I don't believe in him. It's not because I don't think he's good. It's just I don't do tight ends that early. They have crushed me so many times over and over and over again. And now I say this, Randy, and we're in a 2 tight end league. It's got all the premiums and all the bonuses and knick-knack, paddywhacks. And my team's dreadful. So maybe I just don't know how to play in those leagues. And there's a question earlier about 2 tight end leagues. Be Cool did it. In a start 2 tight end dynasty, how early would you consider drafting Bowers? Pretty damn early.
Yeah.
So I know that's the opposite of the argument I was just saying about why I don't usually like tight ends. But
as someone who's won this league twice, I got first once and second once. I will tell you, in that format, this is going to sound crazy given that it's also super flex as well. But given that format, I don't have any problem if you use the 101 on Brock Bowers, because you have seen how hard it is to get tight ends in this format. And there's no one else. And
Randy,
I didn't say you should do it, but I said I don't have any issue.
I thought
if
you were
given
setting
that,
up for 102.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
right.
listen,
they legalized marijuana in Indiana, and he's indulging. I understand.
I mean, I usually get to drive across the border.
101, you crazy man. Hold on. We talked about Vinny earlier. Breaking the news on Stefon Diggs. I'm going to throw him a text. Randy's getting dementia.
I didn't say he was the 101. But like,
I know.
I appreciate the hard time, but dude, Brock Bowers, if he becomes like the tight end 6, forget the tight end 1. You have won in this format. You know as well as I do that if you don't have a tight end, you are just never going to win this league. You have no shot. You can get a Brock Purdy. You can get a Jared Goff. You might even get like 1 year out of like a Sam Darnold type. But you're not getting that, because I tried. I mean, I tried squeezing extra points out of Taysom Hill. I made moves on Mike Gesicki. It's like you're always hunting. So giving this format, it's a lot harder than people realize. I don't have a problem with it. Last question for Matty before we get out of here. What are your thoughts on Javon Baker? That one comes from Jared Dean.
Javon Baker is a great route runner. He reminds me of a kind of discount Amari Cooper in that his size, his demeanor, his ability to make strong catches on the sideline. He doesn't have game-breaking speed, but here's the stereotype, fire the cliche alert. He's got game speed. You could see it on the film that he's able to break away deep and make plays at all parts of the field, short, intermediate, and deep. I love Javon Baker. I have him inside my top 10 amongst wide receivers for the rookie class. High yards per route run guy at UCF, former Alabama recruit. It's just going to come down to the draft capital and the class within the class. Because, again, we love so many damn receivers in this class, but there's only a finite of footballs that go around in these teams, and we have to see where they go, because a team may not be all that high on Baker. He falls, and now he's in a terrible situation. Or he goes to the Patriots in the 3rd round, who are still looking for someone to emerge as the top target getter. And a guy like Javon Baker would be a great spot for one of those teams.
I will just say this, that guys like Javon Baker, Ricky Pearsall, Malachi Corley, guys like that are going to make it so much easier for me to hit the draft button on a running back in the 2nd round, because to know that a guy like Baker, a guy like Pearsall, I mean, these are guys that I like anyway. So if there's a running back there at like 206, 207, then I'm going to hit the draft running back button in the 2nd, because I know this wide receiver class is going to push talent to me in the back end of the 3rd. Matty, my man, we've kept you just over an hour. What's going on with all of your shows? What's coming up next? You need to have Jerry come on the Game Plan some Saturday. I'm booking for you.
Yes, we'll make that happen. We'll talk right after the show. We'll get something locked in. The latest episode of the Game Plan came out over the weekend. Matty Babbage from Dynasty Roundtable. We came on, talked about the do's and don'ts of starting.
Big Purdue guy.
He had his Purdue t-shirt on. I kept doing the bows for him so he could feel at home, so that he could see the bows, the most boring form of basketball ever. But he's probably excited for tomorrow night. So check that out. Trade Gods every week. It's back. It's a weekly show with Jason Allwine. Hurdle on Tuesdays with Cody Carpentier, and then the Future Cast with Theo OG Greminger. We got guests on. We had this guy on, Memphis Young, just the last episode. So you're gonna check that out. I know we were talking about having both you guys come do a draft, so I don't know if that's still in the works. I'm sure it is, so you're gonna be on the lookout for that.
It is, and when I did that guest spot with you, I hit you with a book recommendation, which you have to go back. I'm not telling you here. You have to go back and listen to that episode. But it has to do, Jerry. I'll give you a little Easter egg. You can shear a sheep many times, but you can only skin him once. And this goes back also to the trade conversation we were having with Florosaurus. Remember, don't get greedy in these trades. Like, that's a really good trade for you. Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. So don't be making a hog of yourself. Get the most you can without going over. Jerry, do you have anything to add besides me booking you on the game plan? I will totally come hang out. We'll come to a future cast, but Jerry's schedule's a little bit more wonky than mine.
Yeah, stupid work. What a bunch of crap that is. Listen, don't threaten me with a good time. Always there. We always have a fun time. We had a bunch of people in the chat today. You guys are absolute just goonies. Thank you. Loved it. Made it easy, which it's always easy for me because I don't do anything. I just talk into this thing. But you made it easy on Randy, and I do appreciate that.
You know, I've wanted to do one of these shows for a long time. I've wanted to do a Q&A.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I almost texted Randy if we had a show sheet for questions we were going to ask Matty, but then I realized I wasn't going to read it anyway, and I didn't want him to make fun of me for not knowing that it existed or didn't exist, so I just didn't. Anyway, sorry.
Well, normally I do a little bit of a show sheet for the guest, but I just told Matty we're going to do a Q&A. We put our patrons at the top of the list, and we took some of their questions from our group chat. By the way, the group chat on Saturday was ridiculous. Like, I have to work on Saturdays right now, and it's like, I walk out of my office, there's 112 messages in the group text. And like, apparently we're on fire. So remember, if you're a patron at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone, you get this show, you get it early, you get it ad-free, and you get that 10 to 20 minutes of bonus content that we only share with our patrons. That's patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. I'm just so glad I get to meet Matty Kiwoom in person here in about 2.5 weeks. Going to be hanging out in the land of Jerry. Well, he'll be there in spirit. And maybe we can get him on like a simulcast from the Player Profiler. We can stream it live.
And before we get out of here, if you're in the Midwest, I know we got the eclipse coming. Don't look at the sun. I know those Corey Davis 102 picks are enticing and you want to look at it. Don't. It's going to be the same outcome. Retina's burned out of your skull.
I mean, here's the thing. If you're in the direct path, which Indianapolis is, like they're talking, it could be like 4-hour traffic delays, and just there's like 1 million people in town. Like I was mentioning work, and you guys know if you listen to this show for any length of time, we tend to get a little off the rails at the end. So we recently lost my boss and my boss's boss. So I did not. They killed themselves. But our vice president of operations, who lives in Oregon, has been running and helping with things. And he and I were talking the other day. So obviously he stays in a hotel when he's here in Indy. He's like, well, I was already needing to go back home to spend some time in Oregon. He's like, besides hotel rooms for the week of the eclipse, so like tonight, which is Sunday the 7th, and tomorrow, $800 a night, between $600 and $800 a night. And this is like all along the bandwidth of this eclipse. So if you happen to be one of those areas, pop your head into any gimmick gas station. They got them right there at the counter. A couple of bucks, save your eyeballs. It's an eclipse, I guess. I mean, like we're stopping work. And we're having a total eclipse party from 2:45 until 3:15. We're eating moon pies. I don't know who in the HR department thought that was funny, but it's kind of funny. We're going to have moon pies, and we got the gimmick glasses. So I don't have to worry about my retinas, Jerry.
Yeah, we're doing a watch party too. We're just doing cheap beer though.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll probably be a shit show.
I got the internet.
I'm just gonna stare at it though.
It's
It's
probably
fine.
the.
I've already drafted CEH. The world can't hurt me anymore.
Maddie, anything to add before we get out of here?
No, just enjoy the eclipse. I don't think that we're going to get the best view here in Massachusetts. My wife did get the afternoon off. She's a teacher, and they're sending everyone home early.
Yeah, same thing.
Nice.
Like my son's been on spring break, and they're extending spring break through tomorrow. They don't go back to school until Tuesday, so bonus day for the kids. So if you're in the line of the eclipse, I mean, I get it hasn't happened in like 1,000 years or whatever. So enjoy the show, and thank you for enjoying this show. We'll be back next week. I believe next week is the week we have Nino Brown coming back for part 2 of his rookie recap here on the show. We love Nino. Great guest, as is our guest today, Matty Kiwoom. Please follow him everywhere, especially on Twitter. He is underrated and underappreciated on that social media platform, but not here. We love Matty. And speaking of Matty, on behalf of him, the man of the hour, Jerry Sinclair, and myself, thanks for tuning in to the Dynasty WarZone. We'll see you back here next week with more.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.